What's up, everyone? This is Bill. We're here with the 2012 Hyundai Sonata. Today something came in the mail for it. So you can see this is the stock ride height. And today, don't mind the messy garage, I've been working on some stuff. I got these, the D2 Racing. So these are the D2 Racing from K5 Optima store. Obviously they're purple, but I don't care. Should be some good quality. We're just putting the drop springs on. They're between 20 to 30% stiffer than the stock suspension. They'll lower it 1.6 inch in the back and 1.5 up in the front. See, those will be the front ones. And you got the rear ones here. Total shipping weight of the whole thing was 20 pounds. So I'm gonna weigh the springs and see if it's actually lighter than the stock springs or not. But anyway, so here's the 2012 Sonata. So we're gonna get it up on jacks. Try to at least get the front end done today. If I have time to do the back, I'm gonna do the back. So again, this is stock ride height. We'll get a tape measure over here. Okay, so we're on pretty flat ground. So tape measure on the ground to the top of the fender. See if we get the focus there. It's looking like we are at right at 28 1/8 from ground to the fender. 28 1/8. Okay, so we'll pull this up just a hair. So now if we go the center of the wheel, which is looking like right there, we're at, looks like 15 3/8. Okay, and that's the front end. So come down here to the back and do the same thing. And since this is where it's going to be parked when we do the springs, this makes sense to just measure it right up here. So the back end, you're looking at, to the fender, looking at 27 1/4. So 27 1/4. Okay, and then center of the wheel, I'm gonna call that right about there, and right about there. You're looking at 14 5/8. Yeah, 14 5/8. So that is, again, that's stock ride height. Okay. You see how much gap I have between the top of the tire and the fender. That's what I'm trying to get rid of. Okay. So now we'll get it up on jacks. Alright, so we got one of the front wheels off, and this is what the front stock suspension looks like, just to give you an idea. So we're going to be taking out these two bolts here. You see that there, 1 and 2. And then we're going to undo this bolt right here and this little bolt right here for the brake line. So that's what we got to take off, and then we're going to be removing these three after we get those loose. and then the same for the other side. Okay, so we're getting this front end apart. So I just wanted to give you a heads up here so you know what you're looking at. This is a 19mm bolt with a 24mm nut, and then there is two brackets back here for your brake and anti-lock. So those are going to be 12mm bolts, and then up there, that one right there is going to also be a 19mm. And these are torqued. They do have torque specs. I know these ones right here are 44 to 59 foot-pounds, and these are going to be your fork to shock absorber. Okay, so, and then this one I'm going to have to look back in the book at this one, but you want to make sure you have your torque specs correct on your suspension here. Okay, I just wanted to show you, this is what I did. So after we got this guy loose, it wanted to flop over this way and out. So what I did is put a zip tie. You see there, put a zip tie around the axle and right there around the sway bar, so this thing can't move. And then we're going to take these top three bolts out and we're going to drop this guy down. There's our top three bolts. You want to make sure that this inside one is marked so you can get it back in there exactly how it came out. It was already marked white, but it was kind of chipped off, so I just marked it with a yellow paint pen. Okay, so now we're taking those out. I have to remove my strut brace, and we're going to get it out of there. Okay, so here we have the this is the passenger side front strut and spring. So you can see there. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean it up. We're going to use the spring compressors, and we're going to tighten it down. We're going to take our damper cap, our damper nut off, and we're going to put the new spring on. Okay, so here's the stock spring we got off of there, and here's the D2 racing spring. What they claim is 1.6, 1.5 inch drop. So there you can see the actual height of them. I don't even know if we'll need to compress these to get them on. We're going to find out. Anyway, so there you go. We'll keep shooting after we get them on there. We have the new D2 racing spring on the front passenger side strut, and we got our yellow marker here on this bolt. This gets torqued down to 15 and then up to 18 pounds on your damper nut. And then these bolts up here, the shock towers, are going to be 33 to 43 foot-pounds to torque these down. Okay, so we're going to get it up on the car. Come on. That's it. You have your nuts. The nuts handy. And our Mark 1 here goes to the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it up in there. We're going to get these torqued down, and then we're going to finish this off to the 14 up to 18. So okay, we're just going to kind of thread these on here so it's supporting it. And what we determined by putting the springs side by side is it's almost exactly 2.5 inches shorter of a spring, but it's also, I believe they said something like 30% stiffer. So once the spring is, the weight of the car is on the spring, I don't think it's going to actually drop the car 2.5 inches. Okay, so there's that part. So we'll get them all torqued up and we'll show what it looks like together. I'm going to show underneath here. So you can see the D2 racing spring. Alright, we'll get it torqued down. Okay, so here we go. We got everything torqued back into torque specs. All your bolts torqued down. These brackets for the brake lines are down. Our new D2 racing spring is down. All the bolts up top. The damper nut is down, so we can put the cap back on it right there. So there's what it looks like all put back together. We're going to throw a wheel on this side. We're going to do the other side. We're going to lower the car down and see what it looks like. Okay, so here's what the Sonata looks like. Just the front end is lowered so far. You can see there. So we did drop it quite a bit. You can see the D2 spring up inside there. Okay, so give me a second. I got the tape measure with me here. So I got the video quality here. So from the ground, we're looking at 26 15 16. So 26 and 15 sixteenths. That's with just the front end lowered. So there's what it looks like. Okay, so now we got the front end done. We are ready to do the rear end. We got the tires blocked up and the e-brake on. The rear end is sitting at 27 1/4 from the ground. Yeah, 27 1/4 from the ground. So that's with the stock ride height. So we're going to see how much it actually drops the car. Alright, let's get started on the rear end. Okay, so we got the back driver's side wheel off. I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing. So the goal is to get that spring out and then replace it with the D2 racing spring. So you can see back inside here, see if we can focus, you have the sway bar in there, and it's got a little control arm that comes down. So if you look underneath, right, where's he at? Right there. That bolt right, that nut right there is a 17 millimeter nut. That's going to come off, and then we're going to push this through and disconnect it from the lower arm. And then if you come right here, you have a 19 millimeter nut and bolt, and this is what connects the lower control arm to the hub carrier. Okay, so again, that's that nut right there, and those are 19 millimeter. So we're going to get wrenching on it and see if we can get that spring out. Technically this arm should drop down. We should be able to pull that spring out, and that little rubber boot inside there should come out with it. So that's what we got to do. Okay, so we got our bolts loose. So the first thing we did is we took that bolt out from underneath, the one that goes to this little control arm down below. Took that nut off of there. Then we got the nut and washer off of here, and now we're going to support this lower arm with the hydraulic jack. We're going to take the tension off so we can get this bolt out. You won't be able to get that bolt out unless you do that. Okay, so we're going to jack it up a little bit, get that bolt out, and don't let this flop around. We're going to push this arm down, and we're going to get that spring out of there. Should come out right through the other side. There's a nice little hole right here. So once we get it down, we should be able to pull that spring out this way towards the front of the car. And that's it. So basically you just have these 2 bolts once you get the wheel off, 2 bolts, and then that should be it. Once you get those 2 loose, should be good to go. Okay, so here's the stock spring. We were able to get it out. It had to wrestle a little bit, but this would be the top that goes in. So you're gonna want to remove this rubber boot right here, and then this rubber boot is also kind of fed on there. You can see there. So we're gonna get that off there, and you're gonna want to reuse it. You have these little rubber tabs sticking out. Those are so you can line it up easier and it stays in place. So we can go check it out at the car here. So we had to use the pry bar and pry down on this to get it to separate from the hub carrier, but we got it out. So you're going to want to clean all this out. There's a little bit of dirt and gravel in there, and then up above here, see if we can focus, you're going to want to clean that out too. That's where your rubber boot goes, up at the top. So we're going to clean all that up and see if we can get these other springs on and show you a little side by side of the stock spring versus the D2 spring. Okay, we got the little rubber cups off and got the stock spring cleaned up a little bit. So I'll show you the height of the stock spring the best I can here. So if we go like this, let's see, you go from right there. Stock spring is looking like it is like maybe 10 7/8, or that's the D2 spring, sorry about that, 10 7/8, where this is 11 3/4 on the stock spring, like 11 3/4. Okay, so we're going to get these little rubber cups on. The big end go down here, and then this little guy will fit right on there, like so. And it should ride on there just fine. That just helps it seat in there correctly. And there you go. It's ready to go back on the car. Okay, we got everything cleaned up. We got the spring in there. All my bolts are torqued down. Let's see what she looks like there. So we're going to get a wheel back on, do the other side, and then take a look at how it looks when we're done. Alright, so here we have the finished product with the D2 Racing springs on there. Trying to get to where you can actually see. You got the sun out here. Can't really see the springs at all behind there. You get a little glimpse of them from certain angles, but you can see them back there. Anyway, so there's the finished product on the rear. And on the front. So the front end ended up being, stock ride height was 28 1/8, and finished is 26 inches, a little over 26. And then the rear was 27 1/4, and it is now a hair over 26. So there you go. So I'll give you a walk around of the whole car now. Enjoy some music. And thanks for watching.